Hey everybody, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Tami. Tami is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Thank you guys for joining us today. As always, first of all, I want to introduce our today's guest, Ignacio Palomera, who is co-founder and CEO at Bondex. Ignacio, hi, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Doing great, and thank you for having me. Absolute pleasure to be here.
So, Ignacio, I don't want to beat around the bush. We are here to discuss your entrepreneurial path, your company Bondex, but I like to ask my guests some icebreaker questions at the beginning, just to keep our conversation relaxed. Before our interview, I watched a video where children expressed their ideas on who they want to be in the future. Variants were different, which is not a surprise. But what I noted that nobody said entrepreneur or founder of a startup. So my question is, how would you describe your job to a 4-year-old child?
I would describe it as someone who is a builder of not buildings, but things that people use in their lives. And then I would bring maybe a toy and explain to them that in order for that toy to exist, there's many teams that need to be built. And so you kind of pick your team like you would in a playground, and that people are maybe in charge of designing the toy. And then as a founder and CEO, your task is also to build another team or select your team in the playground, and those will be the ones that make the toy. And lastly, you build a team together and you select the people that will sell the toy. And so the job of a founder is basically you're a builder of teams that then together, right, in conjunction as an organism, build products like toys for, people to consume.
Yeah, it's a great way, actually. So let's moving more to business side. On your LinkedIn page, I saw that your education is connected with mostly two spheres, artificial intelligence and business, in finance sphere, if I'm not mistaken. How do you manage to combine tech and business topics? What are your secrets, and is it actually hard for you?
I think every tech company, right, has two sides of it. One will be the actual tech that needs to be built, and that's obviously by technical people, that whether it's software or hardware, it requires engineering know-how. But there's always, another part of any startup or tech company, which is, business development, operations, sales, marketing, execution, HR. And all of those are more in the business related. So I would always say that, that's how you would split a tech company. So my background is in finance. AI is more of something that I wanted to learn about and get familiar with. I think today you need to be a lifelong learner and always be updating and reskilling and upskilling depending on the trends and most in-demand skills. So that was more of a intellectual curiosity. But my training and the start of my career was in finance and investment banking. And the reason that set me up for success, then as an entrepreneur would be because it's simply a very good school to start your career with, because it gets the basics done, right? Discipline, time. You learn how to learn, and you learn how to solve problems and research things that you don't know about, and then explain to them and try to sell them. And so all of those skills were transferable to then manage the business side of a company, especially when it comes to, for example, doing your own financial models, budgeting. All of those things translate very well into the operations and business side of a company. On the tech side, it takes time to learn. Coming from finance and business, you don't realize that tech has a very distinct method to it, right? And that product and engineering are different, and that design is driven by product, which then gets executed by the engineering team, and that there's different verticals of a technology stack and infrastructure, and that there's a roadmap that gets completed in stages. All of these things you don't know coming from the business side at all. You're very ignorant about these things. When you come from finance, you look at things from the high level versus operationally and in tech. So you have the impression that, there's a bunch of coders in a dark room, putting things in the computer that look like mysterious languages, and that's how software gets made. But there's actually an absolute engineering method and process to it, and that's something that you have to learn versus kind of get to the space knowing about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, your company Bondex is a next generation ecosystem built by combining a talent network and marketplace, partly owned by its community of users through tokenized rewards, as I found on your website. Could you please explain us the whole idea of your solution and give more details on how it works for each of the flow, for introducers, for talent, and for employees?
Sure, my pleasure. So the company is based on two main pillars, and to define it, Bondex is the next generation talent network and marketplace, and we power it through a protocol called democratized talent that is meant to empower everyone and anyone to be able to be a recruiter. Now, there's two pillars that are the thesis for the vision of the company. One is that talent is a supply-constrained marketplace, yet all existing platforms, talent platforms today, focus on the demand side, the employers and the people paying for the expensive subscription, or a recruiter for 30% of someone's salary to find them, or your LinkedIn. So we feel like that they've directed their incentives and experience to the wrong side of the supply and demand of that marketplace. And some things that confirm that thesis are that, there's, I think the recruitment market is 600 billion a year. There's only 3.4 million recruiters in the world, both internal and agency. So they command a tremendous amount of value. Yet, despite all those billions and hundreds of billions spent on recruiting and software and recruiters, 80% of people are placed into their jobs by networking and referrals from each other. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thesis. So by gamifying and tokenizing the experience of the talent and the users, we create a new incentive model that actually, incentivizes them to be much more engaged, keep their data much more fresh, and that will basically streamline hiring because it will create shorter hiring cycles, get people match better, and get companies faster and cheaper talent. And the second big pillar of the company, so that's one, gamification and tokenization of the supply side of the marketplace. The other one is what we call democratized talent. And we basically unbundle the recruitment process and we crowdsource certain parts of it by turning everyone into a recruiter. So, and the idea is, again, referrals are the golden grail of building teams, and your network and your network are kind of the best way to build a team. But, monetizing your network is not something that people have done, and companies pay a lot of money to recruiters to do this professionally. So we wanted to create this system, right? Because there's companies like Google, Amazon, they have incredible referral programs, and that's how they build their teams versus expensive agencies. So how do we systematize this? Well, we call it democratized talent. So a company will put a bounty, basically a reward, and then the users have to stake their reputation Bondex tokens in order to make a referral. And then whoever makes it to the interview stage, they get a little bit of a reward from that reward pool, and whoever made the successful referral gets most of the fee. So this accomplishes two things. One is the best way to think about it is Uberizing hiring or headhunting and recruitment. Why? Because recruiters usually split 70%, they keep 30% of the success fee and they give 70% away to their agency. And they, when they place one person, they get another good 5 candidates that they weren't able to place. And so that network that they've built can be monetized, and we want to allow them to monetize their network beyond their current recruitment role and also keep a bigger piece of the pie. And then anyone, just like Uber, anyone with a car can kind of drive it. Anyone with a good network can monetize it, because today you do referrals being in the business or startup world, and you do it for free out of the kindness of your heart, but there's other people really monetizing that value. So, went for a really long speech here, but to summarize again, there's two aspects of it. One is changing the incentive model for the supply side, talent side of the talent marketplace. And number two, democratizing hiring through crowdsourcing the recruitment process and turning everyone into a recruiter.
So your company is unique in the solution which you've created to the market. How did you actually come up with the idea of creation? Maybe it was a spontaneous decision one evening, or it was planned for years.
It's taken years actually, and it was the first time I went down the Web3 rabbit hole post banking. I wasn't the main founder of the company, but it was an HR related company, and that's when I realized that all the pitfalls and inefficiencies of the recruitment market and how Web3 was a really good use case to tokenize it and change the incentive model. So that part came up with a long time ago. In the beginning, it was for freelancers. Then, I modeled it out for permanent recruitment. But the eureka moment of the, crowdsourcing the recruitment process, we came up with that. Me and my co-founder come from traditional finance, and we remember that we had these referral programs at the investment bank. You got 5, 10K if you referred someone. And the people that we know, usually when you referred someone, that person made it to the top of the hiring pile and they got interviewed first, and it usually got people hired faster. It was cheaper than an agency. And so we were like, if you researched it, LinkedIn has actually got the lowest engagement out of any social media platform in the world. And we were thinking about, okay, we're growing very fast with Bondex. We're now at 1 million users. Now we're almost at 3. But we were like, if you put more than 3 filters on LinkedIn, right? Only 5% of the 600 million users there are actually eligible to that job. And then you spend most of your time trying to filter through profiles and then trying to get people's attention. And mostly you get ghosted, and it takes a lot of time, and it's high volume, low value task. And we were like, what if we were able to replicate that referral system externally so that everyone can be part of it, not just internally to the company in a team? And that was the idea of sort of the Bondex kind of democratized talent protocol.
And what was the hardest part, challenge during those times for you?
You mean starting the company or coming up with these models?
During this whole past, you've already for 2 years on the market, if I'm not mistaken. Bondex was created in 2021. What was the hardest challenge, maybe from technological side, but also from non-technology side for you as for entrepreneur?
I think there's many, many challenges of entrepreneurship, and we have been, I think, we were founded in May 2021. We launched the beta in August 2021, and now we're getting ready to launch an MVP. The challenges have been, a lot. There's so many plates that you're kind of, keeping in the air from, funding, your hiring, your tech, your business development, your partnerships. I mean, it's a lot of challenges. What are some of the biggest challenges I would say that about Web3? I think when we started the project, the market was hot, but people, I think what's driven most of the adoption of Web3 has been speculation to date. And that meant that a lot of people were in the space for the wrong reasons and had a very short outlook on doing things. And that's why you've seen a lot of kind of bad actors and projects that had unsustainable business models. And at the end of the day, to build product takes a long time. So you build the community in Web3 and you build community market fit, but then sometimes they don't have the patience to fully kind of, wait until you have a really, really good high quality product, which you need to. So I think that's one of the things is balancing community market fit, release, monetization. So in other words, I guess timing would be the challenge and expectations of a community that you build.
You've mentioned already that you are not the only founder of Bondex, so you have a partner, you have a co-founder. Is it hard to split the responsibilities and stay in a good relationship with your partners, no matter what is going on with your business?
I think me and my co-founder are very complementary, but that means that we're very different. And, it is in that challenge that we do devil's advocate to each other that we end up in a healthy middle to push the company forward. And that's the most useful thing versus having just one person making all the decisions. So is it easy to keep a good relationship? No, you're going to have arguments, but as long as you respect each other and admire each other, and also defining which lanes you keep for yourself and are very well defined for the other person, and which ones you share, and which ones you have a little bit more authority over than the other person because you're going to be more intimately knowledgeable about it. So that I think those are the keys to it. One, obviously being respectful, and 2, being like defining lanes well and being able to share and being a team player.
I've noticed on the Bondex LinkedIn page that you have weekly live streams where you discuss mainly the topic of Web3. And I want to ask you, what are your top three, let's say, conclusions based on your live streams with entrepreneurs, as I understand they are from different spheres, from different industries.
My top three conclusions, I guess one of them would be about the adoption of Web3, is that in order to have the mass adoption everyone in the space wants, blockchain cannot be so much in the face and be so complicated to use in UI and UX for users. We need products that people really want to use. And at the end of the day, with all technology, people don't care how the sausage is made. People use their car, people use a plane. They don't know how the engine works, but they get on it. People want the features and the magic technology provides, but they don't care about how it works so much. In blockchain and Web3, we've made the mistake of trying to explain everyone in very detail what an NFT is, blockchain, DLT, like all these acronyms. People don't care. So the way that we get to mass adoption is by having blockchain in the background and not being so much in the UI UX. So that's one of my main conclusions. Another big conclusion is I think the next billion users for Web3 will come from gaming. There are some really great people from traditional Web2 companies like Ubisoft and guys that built, Assassin's Creed, that are now working on what they call AAA games, AAA being the highest quality of graphics and design. And, that's the real value and real entertainment. And then you make it seamless, you're earning points. And so I think that will be the big use case of Web3 and that gets mass adoption, goes from, 3 million players today that are playing Web3 games to the 3 billion Web2 players. And I'm excited to see that over the next few years. And then lastly, something I've realized, and again, this is because we're a talent network and with all of our clients and everyone, we discuss a lot of talent and I think this is applicable to any emerging tech field. So wherever is more of a new technology like AI or Internet of Things or robotics, whatever it is that is high tech, is going to have a low supply of existing talent. Meaning there's not that many people that are knowledgeable about the subject or that have expertise. So you kind of need to create new talent that then goes into that space. So when you're attracting talent, is a double sell. One is like you get them excited about the technology and then your company specifically. So what you need to go for is, instead of trying to look for previous skills because you think they come from a big corporation or a traditional industry that they're going to be able to adapt. If it's a new industry, the most important thing is that they're capable of learning and adapting their strategies and knowledge, because you got to think outside the box all the time and adapt to things that are changing much faster than in other industries. So someone can come with a great resume and a lot of logos from massive companies, technology companies, finance companies that you think are really impressive, but they might not translate well to your startup in high tech. So that's something to be careful about. So, again, learning how to learn and being smart, those are the most important things in my view when attracting talent for your company. So those will be my three main conclusions for my live streams.
Does it take a lot of time for you to have all of these meetings regarding live stream, regarding Web3?
Fortunately, I have a fantastic marketing team. Shout out to my marketing team. They're very diligent in doing this for us. And for us, it's a fantastic way of, expanding our network and doing business development and learning about the space and the different verticals of it. So, there's someone in charge of doing the funnel and the outreach to get us the guests. Someone does a prep document for me to know, prep the knowledge of the company and what are the relevant questions to ask them. You meet the people before to see what they want to talk about, so you can drive the conversation in a certain angle. And then it's also important to get the most out of it afterwards. So, cutting the highlights, expanding it, and collaborating on the promotion of it. So all of that takes a village, and everyone needs to work together to make it successful.
One of our guests said that entrepreneurship is a lifestyle. So as I understand, for you, it also takes a lot of time to have your operational work done and also to be on these live stream events. So do you have some tricks or secrets how to be productive and how to manage this work-life balance?
So this is something I'm actually very deeply care about this topic. Productivity, efficiency, working harder and smarter, and combining the both, and how to get there without breaking yourself and burning out. Because when you go from working for a company to become an entrepreneur, is much more intimately ingrained in your life. When you're working for someone else, you can put that down when you're done with your workday, but it's very difficult to disconnect from your business when you've created it and you're a founder, and that can be dragging. So you need to, in order to, have balance in your mental health, for me, physical activity is crucial. Meditation in the mornings, prioritizing gym, and having certain hours where you ramp up and ramp down the day. Because otherwise, I've experienced this, you end up like not sleeping very well and carrying the stress over in other parts of your life that affect your personal relationships and your health. And so you need to be disciplined and prioritize your mental health and your physical health. And by prioritizing that, your work becomes more efficient. You can always do more work, but never skip. When you skip that exercise, that meditation, that personal, that walk in the park to clear your head. Actually, no, you need to prioritize that, and then work will be better because you're prioritizing that. So that would be my piece of advice there.
Mm-hmm. And what is actually the hardest part for you of being an entrepreneur?
The hardest part of being an entrepreneur, I think there's many hard parts, but I think that part that I was just talking about, disconnecting a little bit, or disconnecting is quite tough. You're thinking about it constantly. It doesn't matter if it's the weekend, and that can, translate into you're talking about your business too much and your ideas too much, and that can be overbearing for your partner or your friends. And so, I think being difficult about being an entrepreneur is kind of being able to compartmentalize and knowing that you got to be able to disconnect. And so I think disconnecting is the hardest part of being an entrepreneur, because it's very hard. It's your baby. And you sometimes, I wouldn't call it a lifestyle, but it's in a way, many aspects of your life are involved with it. So yeah, disconnecting, I think, is the hardest part.
Coming back a little bit to business, as I noticed, you are using artificial intelligence in Bondex. Am I right?
Not yet. Our idea is to implement that down the line, and that's part of the roadmap. But today we're not using AI.
Okay. So based on your experience, just on your expertise and knowledge, can be AI considered nowadays as a change agent in every business?
So this is because of the uprise of generative AI recently. You've seen what Google, this week they came up with Bard, and I think it made a bit of a, it spit out a wrong fact very confidently, and it wiped out 100 billion in value from Google stock. So people are relying a lot on generative AI, and it will spit out wrong facts very confidently. And do I think, I have yet to think about all of the use cases that it has for businesses. I think the fact that Bing is integrating it with Microsoft and it's going to make their search engine better. Yeah, I want to see more of that. Like in my case for talent, could generative AI run the first round of the interview with a person and save someone in HR that first round? Like, I think it's definitely going to change things, and we're going to see it ramp up very fast. But I think people are, right now, it's kind of like this hot thing, or people are like, whoa, like there's a consumer application to AI, and they're getting very excited, but they don't realize that like it's not perfect. And right now, the biggest use case I see is for people to stop doing their, it comes with dangers. What worries me about it is people stop doing their homework. People in college stop writing their essays. Analysts, when I was an analyst in finance, I had to do a lot of grunt work and research and things that are very manual, and that taught me the skills that I have today. If I had a tool that gave them to me already done, I wouldn't have learned as much to get there. And so what worries me is that we are over-reliant on technology, and we have something like generative AI that works really well. It's essentially going to make us a bit dumber and lazier. So that's one of my bigger worries with it. But I think the applications will be endless, and I just hope we're able to find a healthy mix of integrating it in healthy ways that make our lives better, and they don't make us kind of more reliant or less effective human beings.
Okay, so AI is one of the vectors of future development of Bondex. And what are other ways of your development? What is the vector of development of Bondex?
So, I mean, we have quite a few verticals. We have gamification, and then tokenization, in terms of what do I see as vectors infrastructure, then AI, the application of AI will be especially matching candidates and shortlisting candidates and matching people to opportunities faster instead of as manually as people do it now. That's where we will integrate AI, and it's very exciting. But what is the vector of technology that I'm excited about down the line is there's a lot of blockchain technology like soul-bound tokens and proof of performance NFTs and things that can change a resume. I think a resume today, which is basically a PDF of everything you've done before, is becoming increasingly obsolete as we go into a more freelancer based and fractional work and these modern workforce models. Something that showcases what you're capable of doing and learning is going to be much more relevant. And so we need to change from a static to a dynamic view of someone's professional identity. And for that, proof of performance NFTs, accreditation NFTs, soul-bound tokens, all these things are, feedback loops from the projects you work on and aggregating the communities and basically making a resume alive is something that really excites me about kind of changing talent infrastructure. And that's later down the line. First, the product wedge is getting people hired faster and better. And then later on is experimentation about how to make a resume better and a profile better.
Sounds like a lot of work. So
it's a lot of work and a lot to build, and it's going to take a long time. And
yeah,
it's very exciting.
Yes. So to sum up our today's discussion, what advice can you give to the fresh-time entrepreneurs?
If I was starting over for the first time, I think you just need to read a lot of books before you get into it. And there's a lot of really good books and podcasts like, Tim Ferriss's podcast, and you get a recommendation of the books from there. Bill Gurley just had a great podcast with there that gives a lot of protocols that you should follow, because you shouldn't just be kind of learning on the go. You should have certain protocols that you can learn from established businesses. Like, Amazon has a certain protocol for how they run meetings. And it might not be applicable for your early company, but, having a protocol and a process for how you think you're going to hire and sticking to those rules versus just kind of coming up with it on the go and having some preconceived notions and ideas of how you're going to run certain things are very useful. So to first-time entrepreneurs, read The Lean Startup and read as many books, 0 to 1 and the Hard Things About Hard Things and every entrepreneurial book that, is out there, and take notes and kind of start getting ideas about how you would run the company at an early stage.
Okay. Ignacio, thank you for your tips and tricks. It was a pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.